Hi everybody, DarthCon29X here with what I call a nostalgic time skip. It's a new little segment I'm trying out for my show. Today's first episode of this nostalgic time skip will be featuring everyone's favorite ghost-chomping ball of yellow Waka Waka powerhouse. I'm of course referring to the famous Pac-Man World Trilogy. We all remember the iconic arcade series of Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, the songs Pac-Man Fever and Weird Al's Pac-Man parody, the new PS4 Namco Pac-Man Championship Edition DX, and my personal favorite, his immortalization in the Super Smash Bros. Family. Most people may not recall the iconic 3D platform element games premiering in 1999 to 2005. Let's start with the first game, shall we? Pac-Man World. Released in 1999, it was a 3D platformer game on the PS1 and the Game Boy Advance. This marks the 20th anniversary of the iconic yellow character. I remember this because the plot of the game starts off with all of his friends and family stopping by to prepare for his surprise birthday party. They all get captured by the villainous Pacman, a nasty mechasonic of Pac-Man with some strange identity crisis and an ego dilemma as he attempts to hold his own anniversary party on Ghost Island. Fun fact, spelled backwards, Namcot is how the Japanese labeled their early Namco arcade machines. I guess you could say this was the English developers' way of making a sub versus dub battle and letting the pack punchers decide who wins. The worlds to explore are quite interesting as well. I remember 5 specific themes: pirate, circus, space, steampunk, and of course graveyard. Hey, it wouldn't be Ghost Island without a graveyard. Another fun fact, some of these enemies will be seen again in the sequel, especially for the 4 iconic ghosts. I personally go by the names this trilogy establishes over the cartoons, outside games, etc. It makes sense, really. Pinky is Pinky because, well, she's pink. And Inky and Blinky, of course, because those are the 2 stooges to the leader of the gang, Clyde. So it's Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and your name must be Clyde. It only makes sense, of course, that Clyde be the leader because he's the only one whose name doesn't rhyme with the others. And, like I said, I go by the trilogy established names. Similar to the Koopalings in Super Mario Bros., I go by the names given to them by the cartoons because, according to the cartoons, their names fit their personalities well. But I digress. I remember having plenty of difficulty in both the circus and the space worlds. Jumping from platform to platform isn't easy when you're trying to collect all the fruits and dots. I will commend Namco for the designs on Pac-Man and the villains. Can't be easy being turned from 2D to 3D Pac-Man, especially with the Pac eyes and the nose, which disappears when facing forward. The cutscenes do look bulgy, and no doubt Pac-Man's appearance will give the kids nightmares for weeks, but the graphics of the gameplay are good considering the time of release. Thankfully though, this will greatly improve by the time of the sequel. He also has interesting abilities like the super running charge ability and the butt bounce for those non-ghost enemies and puzzle solving areas you'll have to deal with. There's also a special metal power pellet that when you bite into it, it allows Pac-Man to completely turn chrome, sink into pools, dive in, and collect different fruits and power pellets. It's similar to the concept where Mario eats a mushroom and he gets like a special giant or fireball technique. After further research into it, I noticed early prototype scripts indicated a crossover with the man from Dig Dug and other various Namco characters as Pac-Man's party guests that were captured, but it was scrapped. I think this is a wise choice, as this was Pac-Man's first 3D story-driven video game. Therefore, the focus should be on Pac-Man alone, at least until they properly establish his franchise. Then they could move on to a massive Namco crossover if they want. Anywho, the final boss is a showdown as Pac-Man faces off against Pac-Machine. The outcome, of course, determines who exactly deserves the title as the true Pac Protector. As you face off against Pac-Man in the final battle, your allies whom you've rescued throughout your adventure will try to aid you by throwing you extra lives if you receive damage. Once the battle is over, the villain's true face is revealed, as it turns out to be nothing more than a shell, a ghost in the shell, as it were. The ghost's name is Orson. You'll see him again, not in the next video game, but the one after that, of course. His problem is that he doesn't have any friends. He noticed how Pac-Man is loved by millions, and no one seems to favor the ghosts in this franchise because, well, they're the bad guys, they're ghosts. Nobody loves a ghost in his opinion, so he tried to steal Pac-Man's life so that he could take some of his reputation and his popularity from him. And in a way, you do have to feel sorry for the little guy. I mean, all he wanted was some friends and some attention. I mean, don't we all want friends deep down inside? So, the conclusion, in order to resolve both parties' issues, they have the party on Ghost Island for both Pacman and Talkman, and they both share a birthday, and everyone's happy in the end. Or at least that's how it should have ended anyway, as well. Let's take a look at this clip.
It's so unfair! You ruined everything! Nobody loves a ghost!
That's almost a touching moment.
On one hand, he did steal Pac-Man's family and friends and ruin his birthday party. But on the other hand, he's just a sympathetic villain in his own way. I mean, I don't think he wanted to hurt Pac-Man. Also never meant to kill Pac-Man and his family, only to kidnap or maim, as it were. The ending was kind of dark, though, considering that he was just a lonely ghost who wanted friends. So, I wouldn't call it a bad ending, but it's not really a good ending. It's somewhere in between. I mean, Pac-Man does save all of his allies, and they get to go back home and celebrate his birthday, but there's still one lonely ghost out there who's all alone, and not even a birthday cake to celebrate. The gameplay was good, the story was good, but I feel like the ending could have been better. Well, this was part 1 of my Pac-Man World Trilogy review. I'm going to get into part 2 really quick. And there was a lot of interesting characters and scenarios in part 1 that I've noticed throughout this review. So maybe I'll touch back on that in a separate individual in-between context to look further in depth to the characters once my trilogy is over, of course. I especially like to talk more about Talkman and Orson. Those were 2 really interesting characters in Pac-Man World Part 1. So, this is DarthCon29X signing off, and I'll see you guys next time.